All right, folks, it is Monday night. It is time for a live Q&A. We missed last week because of the holiday, but we are back. And so if you're new here, we answer all your drone questions. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions tonight because, we've had a lot of articles coming over the weekend, and I think on Friday, about a potential executive order from Trump. So we'll get to that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions, but this is what we do. So usually I start by saying hi to a bunch of people, and then we'll get rolling into the questions. We have Jason in the back room over there, I think with Tom as well. They're going through the questions, and we have Bo and Ben, the dynamic duo right behind the camera that are controlling everything. Is it our first one without Ethan? I think it is our first one without Ethan. Second? No, maybe. Oh yeah, well, last time you guys were training while you were still here. Yeah, we lost Ethan. Oh, he's not dead. He's in California. We lost Ethan, but he's still with us remotely. He's just not in the office anymore. But so shout out to Ethan if he's watching. Okay. And we got a proper countdown this week. Thank you, Ben. That was good.
You are welcome.
All right. Let's go ahead and say hi to a bunch of folks. We have Thorold Inspired, as always, almost always number one out there. Avion, or is it Avion? Lens Air. We have Eric Refsnyder, Richard Hooker, Travis Cheney, Yellow Rose Drone, has been here for a long time with us. Joshua, we have Scott Jordan, another Scott. Peekaboo Drone Services, Alexander Blankenship. We have After His Media, Just Johnny 2012, Jay Thomas, Philip Studio, Sergio de la Garza. We have Lou, formerly Fin Photography. Joe, Lisa is here. Danny Mooseburger. We have Stinker 337. We have Thumb Drone. Who else? James, our good old friend, James Van Boeven. We have Retired Fire Chief. Jillian, our own Jillian from the community with the hammer if you don't behave properly. Tom is here. Cloud Camper, Travis, Puerto Rico. Drone Zone is here. Nathan Hardy, Rick Hone. My God, there's a lot of folks. Al, Bob Rock, Brian, Doug Holiday, Robert, and Roger. We have Josh, Pierre, and G-Sal, Helmet Fire, TIE Fighter, and Tom Rada. Wow. Woo. We made it. All right, folks. Pierre's from Montreal. Welcome. I see some folks from Charlotte, North Carolina, Missouri, Space Coast, Southern Louisiana. I see folks from everywhere, San Antonio, Texas. Anyways, welcome on board. We'll get to, I'm sure somebody will ask questions about this thing, but if not, I'll do a little pause in the middle. I want to get more people online, although we have quite a few people already with us. So let's get to it. It was a rainy day today in Prescott. It was really nice, kind of overcast. Opened the garage door. We have a garage door on one side of the new building. Open there. There was a couch where we can sit down and work. It was really nice. So I'll take that. A couple more days, I think it's supposed to be overcast. Anyways, Travis says, do you think it's a bad idea to use a drone to destroy a yellow jacket nest? No, I don't think it is necessarily. I've seen it done before. They go pretty crazy around. They're just going to get chopped up a little bit, but no, it's not necessarily. I've seen a video online of a person, obviously if you do it safely, which I don't know what that looks like, but you could put, I don't know if you're trying to get it down. The nest is maybe hanging from something and trying to cut it. I saw a video of someone using a drone to try to use the blades to cut whatever was attaching the nest to a wall or to a ceiling or something. I don't know that that's the best of ideas, but I would just be careful. And of course, don't be anywhere near because they're going to be pissed. Joe says, how important is flying cinematic FPV in manual mode? I mean, that's up to you, right? This is more of a personal choice. It also depends on what your client wants if you're doing it with a client. But to me, it's always better if you do it in manual mode because you get to have that movement that you otherwise wouldn't really be able to get. Typically, the roll is a little bit limited and the pitch is a little bit limited when you use the non-manual mode, like GPS mode, maybe we can call it. But yeah, it's all a matter of preference and what you're telling the customer that you can do for them, if this is something that you do for a customer. But yeah, in general, I would say, yeah. Scott says, first question, I have asked Vic this already. Whatever Vic says, probably a good idea. But he says, no, give me a good reason why I should not sell my DJI Mavic 3 original and settle for one of our awesome American drones. Well, if you can find an equivalent, and I know he said sarcasm next to it, but I would not sell any DJI drones at the moment, I can tell you that. Well, I don't know if I want to get into the executive order just yet, but yeah, I would not. I personally wouldn't sell DJI drones. There's a potential that if new models were to be banned in the future, which is a potentiality, I'm not saying that it's necessarily very high at the moment, but it is somewhere on the horizon potentially. If that happens, then I believe DJI drones are going to be more in demand, which means that the price is likely going to go up. But that's just me. But yeah, I would keep it. Mavic 3, great platform. No reason to get rid of it. I don't think there is much out there that is better other than the 4, which is not available to anyone. So yeah. Travis says, have you seen the video of the drone flying in the tornado? Yes, I have. They say they have an FAA approved waiver to fly in tornadoes. What waiver is that? I mean, it's not, the waiver wouldn't be called that specifically. I'll give you an example. We have a waiver to fly in thunderstorms. And so it's not called a waiver to fly in thunderstorms. It's a waiver that waives visual line of sight, that waives altitude requirement, that waives a whole bunch of different things because needing a visual observer. It's basically a series of different waivers that are put together to allow you to operate with this. So in this case, if they have a waiver to fly in tornadoes, then it would likely be beyond visual line of sight without needing a visual observer. And I don't know about altitude, what altitude they would be allowed to fly at. Now, I do believe this is something that is possible, and here's why. Because the FAA is really interested in making sure that you don't hit another aircraft when you're flying in the air, right? If you are telling the FAA that you're going to be flying in a tornado, the chance of another aircraft being nearby to hit is slim to none, right? So the FAA is more than likely going to be willing, as long as you can make a case that you're not going to hurt anybody on the ground when you do it, which might be more difficult for a very large operation. But otherwise, and you could argue, I guess, that tornado damage is going to be far worse than a drone damage, but I don't know that the FAA would go with that. We have the ability to fly during a convective segment inside of a cloud with a drone. And the reason we want to do this was just for the heck of it, because we wanted to collect some data and have some fun. So we applied for the waiver and we got it. Jason was able to write a good enough of a description that he got it. So I don't know that there's many people that can do what we're going to do with that. We're now waiting for the summer thunderstorms to be able to go and do it. We'll see if it's something that's possible. But yeah, so it is possible that they get a waiver to do that. Nathan says, thank you for the new LMS system to track my new Part 107 pilot's progress. You're very welcome, Nathan. Glad you can use that. So for those of you that are not familiar, we soft release at the moment our new learning management system. It is available to anyone that wants to do it. It's actually lms.pilotinstitute.com. And we're pretty proud of it, and we should be, because it's really cool. Johan, my business partner, worked on that thing for the last 18 months. And it has cool new functionalities. One of them is including progress of pilots for enterprise users. And it's really cool. So Nathan, I'm glad you can see that and use that. It's fun. Really cool. L says, my RC2 lost communication with my Mavic 4 Pro. Okay. Causing the drone to do a flyaway over the ocean. After a couple of tries to recover, I shut down the RC2 and the drone did an RTH. Any thoughts on that, on the cause? Ooh, interesting. New drone as well. We don't see flyaways very often. That's a tough one. I would say without more data, without seeing exactly what happened, I would say send it to DJI and see what they can come up with. But that doesn't sound right. Oh, Mini 4 Pro. Yeah, M4P. Be careful with the short. Yeah, Mini 4 Pro. That's a good point. RC2. Yeah. Mini 4 Pro, fly away. Couple tries, shut it down. Yeah, I don't know. Stuck. Was there a stuck? Did it lose signal completely? I guess would be my question. And was like one of the stick stuck in one position that was making it go further away? I don't know. That's a tough one. Yeah, I'd like to see the data. Tom says there is a local park that shows as dark green in my AirAware app. It's in class Gulf airspace, but I'm guessing this might indicate a local ordinance or something about launching drones. Click on the green thing, and it will tell you exactly what it is. It should tell you in the AirAware app. It should give you more information about what is in that area. I don't remember all the different colors. I'm not on AirAware enough to remember all the different colors, but yeah. Yep. I know that AirAware has a couple places where they have local ordinances, but I don't know if that's what that one is. Panther AM says, I have been putting off buying a new DJI drone since I sold my DJI FPV a year and a half ago, before it became a possible paperweight due to the possible ban. Am I safe to buy a DJI drone in the US? Just keep in mind that all the proposed bans that we have seen to date, and I'm not saying that's what it's going to be in the future, but all the proposed bans, none of them have gone through, are targeting new models of DJI via the FCC. Every drone that you fly has to be approved by the FCC. If DJI is no longer able to get approval from the FCC, then the new models would not be able to come in the US. So it wouldn't really affect your old drones in this case. Doc Holiday says, I heard there is a loophole in the tariff that allows fees on initial purchase if there are multiple merchant purchases. I don't know, quite frankly. It's a bit above my pay grade, not something that I'm an expert in, so not something that I necessarily want to comment on. So yeah, you'd have to talk to someone who's a tariff expert. Do you think it is worth it to buy an extended battery recreational flight for the Mini 4 Pro? I mean, it depends on how you fly, right? Do you ever find yourself limited by the current size of the small battery is my question. And if you find yourself, being limited on a regular basis, then probably a good idea to get the bigger battery. Engineer Drone Services says, checking the FAA Open TFR list, I see nothing in Worcester, Massachusetts, but found this when I went to Polar Park to see the Woo Sox. Oh my God, too many freaking words. What is going on here? Okay, the Red Sox farm team. All right. Guests are prohibited from using or possessing unmanned aircraft or radio-controlled model aircraft in Polar Park or anywhere on or within the airspace of Polar Park property. Well, yeah, they can't do that. They obviously can't restrict the airspace. So, Minot, I would say, yeah, call them out on that. They don't have control of the airspace. Now, they could say that you can't have a drone inside on the ground, like in your possession. That's fine. If they control the land, they can control, what you have over there. They can say you can bring water bottles from the outside inside of the park, but they can't control airspace. So that's a nope. Puerto Rico Drone Zone says, a lot of photographers are using Mavic Mini to perform commercial jobs and don't follow any regulations because they understand the Mini is not required to register, confusing a lot of pilots. That's right. The only thing that sub 250 gram drones are exempt from is registration if you fly them for recreational purposes. Every other piece of regulation applies. That's as clear as I can make it. So if you're flying this for commercial purposes, you still have to register it, you still have to follow all the rules and blah, blah, blah. It is not, it is confusing. I agree with you. It is absolutely confusing. And that kind of takes us to the next question, which is what are the sub 250 rules? The rules are what I just said. The rules are the same for every drone that flies in the airspace. The only thing is registration is not required for sub 250 gram drones that are flown for recreational purposes only. If you fly a sub 250 gram drone for under Part 107, it needs to be registered. Kivantesh Brown says, I have a custom drone. Okay, when I connect to my Jetson and try to arm my drone, I get a position estimate error. I'm using ArduPilot. This does not happen when I arm with an RC. Yeah, that's a bit beyond my, I would have to see more details. This is a bit beyond my knowledge with ArduPilot. You can try to send us an email. Jason is pretty current with that stuff. We can take a look, but that's a tough one. Michael Scott says, I'm 55, have a Mini 2. I have a tough time seeing it when it gets kind of far away, and I'm not yet used to just flying by looking at my phone. Any tips? Yeah, if you're that's the limitation of visual line of sight, right? If you can't see it past a certain distance, that's as far as you can go to fly it. I don't know how else to say it. There's not really a whole lot of tips other than getting corrective glasses if maybe it's your vision that doesn't allow you to see from far. I don't know if corrective glasses will help you with that, but you cannot use binoculars. You have to basically, and looking at the screen alone doesn't really you still need to be able to see the drone visually by looking at it. I hope that makes sense. Cloud Camper says, I have FAA authorization in Class D, zero grid that turns to Golf when the tower is closed. What are the rules at that point? At that point, once the tower is closed and it's Class Golf, you can fly at the airport just like anywhere else. You just have to make sure that you give way to traffic. Be careful. Because the tower is closed doesn't mean that other aircraft are not going to be flying there. Manned aircraft, airplanes, helicopters can still land at that airport. It just means that there's no control tower to tell them what to do. So you can fly there without getting LANC approval, but you should still be very, very careful, especially at night, to follow all the rules. Okay? Peekaboo Drone says, do you have any suggestion for insurance company that cover drone operations? I'm located in Jonesboro, Arkansas, if that matters. It doesn't actually matter. There are quite a few companies online. I recommend just doing a Google search for drone insurance. There is a whole bunch of them available. I don't always like to recommend an insurance company because it really depends on the rate that they're going to give you. I would just shop around, type drone insurance, shop around for the pricing for what you want to do. Some of them are going to provide a per flight fee. Some of them are going to provide an hourly. Some of them are going to provide, not hourly, a daily rate, a monthly rate, a yearly rate. So it really depends on what you want to do. So, okay. What else? Philip Studio says, the possible drone executive order aside, what are your thoughts regarding Biden's 2025 defense bill that could cause DJI to be banned if sufficient evaluation isn't taken by December 2025? Great. Okay. I'm glad you asked a question. Let's go ahead and talk about this whole thing. It's going to take a few minutes, but let's start with your question. What are my thoughts on this thing? I think it was terribly written. Because it contains, what we refer to as a dead man switch, which means that if by December a government agency hasn't tested DJI for to see if it poses a threat to national security, then DJI would be automatically banned via FCC ban, which is what I mentioned earlier, right? They would ban future models. And so that dead man switch is kind of a very good opportunity for those that hate DJI in the government and that want to see it gone, because if nothing happens, then DJI gets banned with no proof, mind you, no proof that it would be causing, it would be an issue with national security. So that's what I think about that, I guess. Regarding the executive orders, so let's talk about this. There was a couple articles that were shared with me this week, and I saw a couple of them discussed on the community, and with headlines that were obviously clickbaits, but where it mentioned that President Trump was going to be signing an executive order that would ban DJI drones. And once you read the details, it shows a bit of a different story. It shows that potentially, and this is potentially happening on Wednesday, I shared a post by Vic on LinkedIn today where he kind of summarizes the whole thing pretty well. But there was in the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2025, there was a clause, which is what Philip is talking about here, where DJI would need to be, there would need to be a study on whether or not DJI and Autel, by the way, are going to pose a security threat to national security. The executive order, it looks like, we won't know until potentially Wednesday, it looks like is trying to push for that audit to happen, okay? And if that's the case, then it's really nothing new. It's not earth-shattering. We've known about this for about what, 6 months now, because it was last December, and it's actually a good thing. We do want one of these agencies, whether it's DHS or somebody else, to go and perform that audit of DJI and once and for all tell us if DJI is a threat to national security. As long as it's done fairly, then let's get with it, right? Let's get on with it. And then we can decide if we want to ban DJI or not. And if they find that it is a national security, then it will be banned through the FCC. Okay. So that's one part of the executive order. There are a couple more things on the executive order, one of which is the Section 2209, which we should talk about. Section 2209 is an old section from, I think, 2 FAA authorization acts ago. So that takes us to like the 2010s, somewhere in the late 2010s, I think 2019 maybe. In there, the FAA was mandated to come up with standards for creating restrictions over critical infrastructures, national, federal restrictions that all the states could follow. And because that was never put in place, we had this hodgepodge of rules that each state put in place to define a critical infrastructure, which was very just non-standard. So hopefully with that executive order, it looks like Trump would be pushing for getting that out as well. There's also something in there about Part 108, which the Beyond Visual Line of Sight rule, again, for pushing for that regulation to happen, which, again, would be nice as well. So the only thing that I saw in potentially an executive order on Wednesday would be something related to the Department of Commerce ANPRM, Advanced Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, that we talked about a couple months ago. So if you're not familiar, a couple months ago, the Commerce Department put out an Advanced Notice of Proposed Rulemaking asking users like you and I a bunch of questions about how we use drones. And some of these questions were weirdly worded, mind you, but we got 700 comments in there. I think a lot of you that watch our show and follow Vic and other people in this group submitted a comment, which is great. Now, what we heard is that potentially the next step would be an NPRM, a Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. What we heard is that potentially the Commerce Department would skip that I'm guessing it's legal, and go directly to final ruling. We don't know really what the final ruling would be about and what it would contain. Based on the questions that they ask, it doesn't seem like anything really all that positive. So if you ask me if I'm worried about anything in that executive order, that would be the piece I would be worried about, because the piece about the National Defense Authorization Act and the audit of DJI and Autel, we've known about this. I'm not worried. Well, I'm not going to say I'm not worried about it, but it's something that we've known about. This Commerce Department potential final ruling, that's something that I would like to see what's going to happen with that. Okay, so long answer short, that's what I think about the executive order. I know a lot of you have been freaking out because you're reading headlines. Please read more of the details before saying, well, they're going to ban DJI on Wednesday. Now, mind you, this is 2025 in politics where anything can happen. And so could there be a ban on Wednesday of DJI drones? Psh, sure. It's, anything can happen these days. But based on I hate to say logic. I hate to say logic when I talk about politics, but based on what we've seen, my guess is what I just said is likely to happen. So we'll see. Don't hold me to it. I don't have a magic crystal ball, but I like to use facts to make decisions and think about stuff. We'll see what that takes me. Again, it's 2025. So, whew. Next. Peter says, thoughts on southern Arizona border allowing, disabling, or shooting down drones? Yeah, it's 2025 in politics. Yes, Arizona has this thing where within 30 miles of the border, I think it is, it's a big number. Law enforcement would be able to disable, aka shoot down, drones, and that appear to be suspicious, related to drugs, I think, and cartel activity and all of that. I mean, on paper, obviously, these guys have a job to do, and they have to protect the border, and they have to protect U.S. citizens from drugs coming from the southern border. I'm 100% on that. 30 miles away from the border is a bit of a stretch. And there is a clause in there that says that they wouldn't be accountable if the drone was shot and it wasn't supposed to be shot. So I also have a bit of an issue with that. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we are. So, yeah. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I don't know how you fix it other than... I don't know. There's a tough balance. I'm going to get back to that question. There's a tough balance between allowing law enforcement to do their job and to protect U.S. citizens and also protecting the community of pilots. Imagine you live near a border town in southern Arizona or anywhere really near the Mexico border, and you're doing your job of filming a house for a realtor, and all of a sudden your drones get shut down because it's close to the border, which is not illegal, and you have no recourse to get that money back because there's a clause in there that says that law enforcement is not responsible if they shoot it down by mistake. Okay, so there's got to be a balance between these two things. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. Stony Manning says, is there regulation that precludes me from attaching a remote ID module on the underside of the drone rather than the top? Nope, the FAA doesn't say anything about that. So I would just be careful with the bottom of the drone. If there are any sensors, don't put the module where it can block one of the sensors. That's the only thing I'd be careful about. I would just recommend putting it on top of the battery. Put a little Velcro piece on top of your batteries, and then you can swap it and put it on there. Can you touch on the settings, normal, HLG, and D-Log M? Yes. Okay. So these are different settings that are going to... They're going to help you when you do post-editing of your footage. Normal means that the colors, right, are applied in a normal way. Like the image that you see right now coming out of this camera, looking at me, if you recorded that to an SD card and you put it in your computer, my skin tone already looks normal. As long as your settings were set up correctly, everything looks normal, right? D-Log and HLG are going to provide you with a different set of colors. And why do you want to do that? You want to do that so that in post you can apply a look. Okay. Typically, when you work with log, you're going to apply what's called a LUT, L-U-T. It's a lookup table. And that's going to allow you to make your footage kind of pop and have its own style if you want. The reason you want to do that to log footage and not to normal footage is because that normal footage is recorded in such a way that when you apply the LUT, you don't lose that quality, those colors and that data, okay? Same for HLG. HLG is high, what does it stand for? Hybrid log gamma, thank you. It's the same idea where typically HLG is really good with, like, if you have an iPhone, for example. I don't know about Android because I don't use those, but on the iPhone, you can record in HLG, and then when you watch the footage, it kind of pops. If you've ever done that with your phone, and then you look back at the footage, you're like, whoa, the whites are really bright, and everything is really bright. That's because it's shot in HLG. So it's just a different way of recording your footage. Just keep in mind that HLG and D-Log M is going to require you to do a bit more treatment in post. It's not footage that you can use without really making changes. That's, I guess, as simple as I can make it for someone who's never played with that. It's cool. Play with it. See what you can do. See if you can get some cool, cool effects. The LUT stuff is pretty cool. If you've ever watched a movie, what's the Bateman movie? I always use that as the TV show. With Ozark. If you Arrested Development, yeah. If you ever watch Ozark, I think it's on Netflix, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. As soon as you turn on that footage, you'll see the different color that are being used throughout this whole TV show. It's very cold in sometimes it's warmer, and then like each scene is a little bit different, but it has a very distinct look that if you put that footage in a lineup, Game of Thrones was like that as well, where they had a beautiful color grading, it's called, of different scenes depending on which world you were in. So yeah, and Game of Thrones, had the brightness all the way down so you couldn't see anything unless even at 100% brightness on your TV. That saves money on post-processing, special effects. Anyways, yeah, good stuff. But yeah, that's what that is. Kevin Corns says, Part 107 states that if requested by an authorized person, you must show your certificate and valid ID. Where does it state that you need to show a copy of your recurrent, or do I need to keep it on? So you need to show that your certificate is valid. So in order to do that, you would have to show your currency as well. Showing your certificate, if your certificate is no longer valid because, okay, so let's put it this way. There's a date on your certificate. That's the date of issuance of the certificate, which, by the way, doesn't always match the date that you took the exam, which is what actually is important. The currency starts to expire from the minute that you take the exam at the FAA testing center. That date is the date that you need to use to count how many months until you have to be current again. Okay, so not the date on your actual certificate, and so in order to prove currency, you would have to show a certificate of currency from ALC 677, for example, to whoever is the authorized person, which would be the FAA in this case. Casey says, would you buy a Mavic 3 Pro Cine or wait for the Mavic 4? I currently have a Mini 3 Pro. The best drone that you have is the one that you have. I don't remember the actual say, but anyway, we don't know when the Mavic 4 is going to be available in the United States, if it is ever going to be available in the United States. So I would say, I don't know. That's a tough call. There's nothing wrong with the Mavic 3 Pro Cine. It's a great platform for sure. Thorough Inspired says, if new DJI models are banned and DJI decided to just build current models, would those continue to be available? My guess is not. My guess is that we will be weaned out of DJI models after a few years. DJI will no longer support these drones over time, and they will stop making them. Keep in mind, DJI is a global manufacturer that makes drone all over the world, and they'll continue to sell them to everybody else but us, because guess what? There's no other country in the world right now that is looking to buy DJI drones. And so we're going to be left out from that cool technology, and then we're going to be forced to use nothing because there is no drones right now to replace DJI Mavic, Air, and Mini series. Mini, there's a couple, but on the Air and the Mavic series, there is no replacement available in the United States. So Stephen Belt says, the cops asked me to land while I was filming an accident. No problem. My problem was that they told me the state police had put up a TFR. They didn't like it when I told them that's not accurate. Yeah. Unfortunately, when you know your stuff and they're trying to BS you, you have to call them out. And so if it's not on the FAA thing, I would ask them, I would play dumb and I would say, hey, can you show me where that TFR is listed? I have the FAA website right here with all the TFRs and I don't see it listed. Can you help me? I would just play dumb in this case and see if they can educate you. Eye in the Sky says, I have a Mavic 4 Pro. Mavic 4 Pro. Do you know when ND filters are coming out? I do not. I do not. Do you think nighttime flying is fun for recreational flying? No. Quite frankly, I think nighttime flying, unless you have to do it, there's really not a whole lot of fun with it. You can't film really. Well, okay, let's take that back. Nighttime flying in the right environment can be fun if there is enough visibility, enough lights outside for you to be able to see the drone. In an urban environment, could be a lot of fun. You have to be very careful though, because you can't, obviously it's night, you can't see nearly as well. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. I see DRVB says there are plenty of drones other than DJI. Name me a replacement for the Mavic and for the Air series. I'll take a look at them. That is not Chinese. That is not Chinese. Can SAR personnel fly in a wilderness area? They can if they request special approval from that authority, which I think is the U.S. Forest Service, if I remember correctly. But yeah. Yeah, regarding the nighttime thing, it is definitely fun if you are in the right environment, but you need to make sure you have enough light to film. Yeah. My Part 107 expires in June. What is the procedure to recertify? You don't recertify, you get current. I like to use proper terms. Your 107 certificate does not expire. That's why it doesn't have an expiration date on it. Your currency expires. You need to go on the FAAsafety.gov website and you need to search for ALC 677. I think Jason is going to put a link in the description for you. Mitchell says, I own an Autel 640T. I wanted to update it, but the latest version of the update is specifically for China. Interesting. Should I still go ahead and update? I mean, you know, updates, you always have to read what the update actually does. So go to the release notes for the manufacturer. They always have those on the website somewhere. And then take a look and see what that update actually does. It may not be something that you need, especially if it's done just for China. My guess is that it's probably updating some geofencing in China, but that's just a guess. Inhale Production says, if you buy a Mavic 4 Pro from Canada, can you buy the Care Refresh from DJI? No, you cannot. They will not. If you live in the US, they will not. They will not let you do that, or they will not let you use it. Let's put it this way. Can a college give its students permission to fly only with a trust certificate without a supervision over 107? The mapping will benefit the college. No, I mean, colleges can give permission to break federal regulations, so no. If I don't know, Rick, if you're teaching at the college, but if you do, I would recommend that all the students get their Part 107 at the bare minimum, especially if they're going to be doing mapping. That's the easy way around, quite frankly. Yeah, Worcester, Massachusetts. Yeah. It's like the Worcestershire sauce. Worcester. Next, Man, we have a lot of questions. Let's see, we have 20 minutes left. I passed the UAG exam thanks to your course. Congratulations. I purchased my first drone for commercial operation, DJI Neo with the RC. I will start doing freelance, blah, blah, blah. Any tips? Ooh, that's a very vague question, but master your skills. I mean, own new skills, I guess. Just keep practicing. That's really the one way that you're going to get better. That's probably the best tip that I can give you. There's obviously a ton of things you have to do as a business, and I hate to upsell stuff, but we have the premium community, which is designed specifically around drone business. I would recommend looking into that. It's a small investment, but there's a ton of content available to help you build your business. But yeah, that's what I would say. What do you know about drone management software for first responders? There's quite a few of them. Depends on your operation, the size of your operation, what you actually need. I would recommend looking at DroneSense. It's a really good one. I would recommend looking at DroneSense, quite frankly, period. They're just a good platform, and they're good people. We know them pretty well. Oh, yeah, okay. He's one of those guys. MR25 says, hello, I'm in the process of getting a new drone for survey mapping and inspection. Does anyone have any recommendation? The budget is under 10K. Survey mapping, Mavic 3 Enterprise at the moment, or the Matrice 4 is really the go-to. RTL. You can also look, if you want no DJI or no RTL, maybe look at a Parrot NFE AI. That's the only other one that I would look at. It's tough. Kind of goes back to what we said. Yeah, goes back to what DRVB said. He says fly FPV, which is way more fun than DJI, but can you fly your FPV to do drone mapping like this? I mean, I'm all for FPV, but we have to be realistic at one point. FPV is one little fraction. Are you going to tell Sparky to go fly an FPV instead of his Inspire 3? Are you going to tell Jared to fly FPV to collect data for mapping and surveying and LiDAR? I mean, let's be realistic here, you know. Thumbdrone says, have you or anyone you know, have you drone shot at? What would you do? Yeah, that's a tough one. We haven't had the chance of getting shot at yet. Not looking forward to it, but I would. It depends if there's damage to the drone, obviously. It depends if you have footage of the person doing that. It's obviously better if you do. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to prove. But I know Vic for a long time was trying to collect the data that people that were getting shot at. I don't know where he's at. I know he joined the chat a little bit later. Maybe Vic, you can tell us. But yeah. And Vic, just reading his message, he says, Enzu for non-DJI drones. Yep, that's correct. Even though Enzu is very much a copy of the Mavic for mapping and being non-DJI, that's a great one. I agree. Enzu Robotics, it's the green drone, the dark green drone. For the drones not available in the US, are they available in Canada? Can you cross the border to purchase? How does the tariff work? You can try, but the difficulty is that we had a couple reports of people trying to come back with the drone and being either tariffed on the way back, which is, I guess, fair, or just not allowed to come back at all in the US because of the current issue with I was going to say Border Patrol. It's not Border Patrol. Customs, thank you. Blocking DJI drones from re-entry. So I would be careful with that. If you're flying, it might not be as bad, but if you're actually... if you're flying the drone over across the border? No. If you're flying commercially and bringing it back, I wouldn't be as worried. Yeah, Vic says, I don't collect that anymore. It was pointless. Yeah, sadly, I agree. Unfortunately, we find that there's very little repercussions from people that are shooting at drones. It's going to be one of these things, I hate to say it, but it's going to be written blood until somebody gets shot and either very hurt or killed. I don't think the FBI is going to be paying attention. I hate to say it this way. Chris says, if your currency expires, can you take the test and revive your Part 107? You don't need to. The beauty of it is that your Part 107 certificate does not expire, only your currency. So if you let it expire, it just means that you're no longer able to be a Part 107 pilot until you get current again. Once you get current again, then you're good to go. You don't have to retake the actual exam. Is Pilot Institute involved in the Embry-Riddle UAS course or curriculum? We are not. I did work at Embry-Riddle for a while in the US department. I was the program chair for the Embry-Riddle Prescott campus. So I did work on the curriculum for quite a bit, but not anymore. I'm also part technically of the industry, I don't know what it's called, industry board for Embry-Riddle Prescott. So I guess you can say that maybe to a certain extent. Drone Eagle says, if a person were to fly to Europe and purchase a DJI drone with some flight time on the drone, do you think it would be confiscated by custom upon re-entry? I would... I don't know. I don't know. It's a risk that you have to be willing to take, okay? But if you've flown the drone and you don't bring it back in the actual box, I don't know. It's tough. And I don't want to give any kind of advice on this because that's not my area of expertise. And I obviously don't want to tell people to do something that might be illegal because I don't want to tell people to do something illegal. So yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, I would say read up more, talk to an attorney if you feel like that's a risk and see what they recommend. But talk to an expert in that area before making that move. Okay. Do you have any advice on drone photo video delivery platform? As in sharing your images, I'm guessing, Caroline, you're asking. There is not a whole lot out there that are drone specific for delivering your photos and your videos. I personally would recommend using a service like Dropbox or Google Drive or something similar. There used to be PIXL, but I don't think they're in business anymore. But yeah, I would just recommend using. We use Dropbox for work quite a bit, and I like the platform. You have the ability to kind of give them access to a folder so they can download all the stuff. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. Maybe other people have recommendation. I don't know. Maybe Vic has recommendations about what he uses. When renewing Part 107, is it the FAA online class only? Pass that class test and then you're done. Yes, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Vic says, the only confiscation at the border I know of ended up being a misinterpretation of the CSP ban by a border agent. Oh, yeah, okay, that's an update on what we talked about last week. Cool. And Vic says, Hightail is great to share. So that's a software that he uses for sharing photos and videos. Woo! Okay, we get... You've done a great job. I know. Even though I had a long monologue in the middle. I guess it's all a monologue anyway. Yeah, if you have more questions, put them in here. I'm going to take a quick mental break, read some of the comments here and see. But yeah, Eric is asking about the report of the guy having the M300 seized. I think that's what Vic just talked about, which was apparently a misinterpretation of the CSP ban from a border agent. So I guess they got their drone back, which is good. But I think what was asked before is a little bit different, which is you buying a drone somewhere else and then you're bringing it back. Obviously, you would have technically to pay an import fee on it, and a tariff or whatever you want to call it. But yeah. And then there's another question about bringing a Mavic 4 from outside the US and bringing it back. Is the FAA going to allow me to register it? Yeah, the FAA doesn't really care. They don't care about where you bought the drone. They just care that you register the drone. So you could buy it. You could buy any drone anywhere and bring it back and have it registered. It's fine. Whew, Nelly. Yeah, I know it's a lot of technical issues, and I know this CBP issue with DJI is preventing a lot of people from being able to buy the drone and receive it directly from DJI, which the duty fee. Thank you, recovery drone. That's the word I was looking for. A duty free fee, not duty free, duty fee. Yep. If DJI gets banned, what happens if we bought a 2-year support and need a replacement? Again, the bans would be on drones that are future drones, future models, not current models. So DJI would still be able to send you a replacement. Vic says, fly a little, scratch it a little bit, and it's a used drone. Not legal advice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. And just don't bring the box back with you. And then keep in mind, if you're trying to get Care Refresh, if you buy it somewhere else, they're not going to allow you unless you live in that country. Is it a good idea to get a DJI Mavic 3 multispectral right now? Yeah, there's not a whole lot of multispectral drones out there. So if that's what you do, then yeah, I would say absolutely. I have a Matrice 4T and waiting for the parachute to come. Can I fly over people recreation? Or does it always have to be Part 107? Flying over people is 100% restricted to Part 107 operations. There is no pathway to fly over people under recreational rules. That's why they're recreation, right? They're just for fun. That's why the FAA has this different pathway, which is Part 107, which is the main pathway to fly drones, and that's where you're allowed to do this. So there's quite a few restrictions that people don't realize of things that you cannot do under recreational rules, and only under Part 107. Flying above grid numbers is one of them. Flying over 400 feet is one of them. Anything that's in the regulation that can be waived is not available to be waived. There's no waivers under recreational rules. Okay. Caroline says, I'm interested in doing mapping and surveying as well. What do you recommend as a step-off point finding clients for those areas? I mean, in this case, you would have to, I would build a portfolio first. I would make sure that I know what I'm doing before going knocking on doors, so that you can show people, hey, this is what I have available. This is what I can do. And then trying to sell them on the product. But yeah, a lot of learning first. And by the way, we have courses. We have 4 courses on mapping. This is not something that I can just cover in a live event like this. There's a lot that you need to know, but get educated on that stuff. Jared, it teaches the course. I'm not a mapping expert, but Jared is. That's what he does for a living. And quite often he's actually in the chat. He's not here tonight, but learn from him, learn from someone about the mapping. There's a lot of nuances and things that you need to understand so that you can build your own surveying company, or not surveying, because surveying is a different thing, your own drone mapping company. Be careful with the word surveying. Quite often it's limited to people who are surveyors. You can say survey grade level if you have the proper equipment, but otherwise just be careful with that. Michael Scott says, can you fly over a road if there are no cars on it at the time? Yes, you can. The FAA doesn't have restrictions on flying over roads. They have restrictions over flying over people in moving vehicles. Okay. Do you know any office in New York City or New Jersey area to write my Part 107 exam? The FAA exam is done with a company called PSI, and PSI has offices, has testing centers all over the country. I think there's like 700 or 800 of them, and they have a website where you can go and find this. If you're part of our course, we have a link that shows you where you go in order to schedule the exam and find a place nearby. Drone Eagle says, my Air 3S and batteries were made in South Korea. Would that be the same ban, more or less, as a Chinese-made variation if the DJI drone purchase was made other than China? Well, the proposed bans that we have seen don't really care where the drone was made. They only care with the fact that DJI is a company that is based in China. That's why sometimes I see people leaving comments on our videos that says, well, I wish DJI would build their drones in the USA. That is not really the issue. The fact that DJI is a company owned by a Chinese national is the problem, okay? And so even if they build them in the US, they would still be owned by a Chinese citizen, in which case it would just not work. So where your batteries are made doesn't really matter nearly as much. Can public safety drones without Part 107 and COA fly for commercial purposes? One more time. Can public safety drones without Part 107 pilots fly for commercial purposes? Okay, two different things here. Drones and pilots. The drone itself needs to be registered under Part 107 in order to be flown under Part 107. Okay? Maybe I'm not answering the question, but anything that is flown for recreational purposes, the drone needs to be registered needs to be registered under Part 107, and the pilots needs to be certified properly. Okay? So if you don't have a Part 107 pilot, technically that drone cannot be flown for, or I should say, if the pilot does not have a Part 107 certificate, then they cannot fly for non-recreational purposes. I know it gets complicated. Next, we have Rick says, didn't the AMA effectively get a waiver to fly above 400 feet at their club site, depending on the location? Yes, they did. That was something that I kind of emailed my FAA contacts and I said, hey, I thought recreational couldn't get any waivers. They did get for that. Yep. It's the AMA. They don't always have to follow the same rules as everybody else, I guess. But yeah. Yep. You are correct, Rick. Okay. Any other questions? If not, we can also shut it down early. We have 3 minutes to go. Put them in the comments if you have any more questions. Let me see. Scrolling here. You call that a mustache. What do I call a mustache? Is the lava lamp? The lava lamp is, yes. It's barely moving because that lava lamp takes 48 hours to fully warm up. It doesn't. It takes about 2 or 3 hours to warm up, but it's there, but it's going to be starting to move right when we're done. Is VLOS, visual line of sight regulation, to be within line of sight or maintain line of sight? Visual line of sight regulation says that you have to stay within visual line of sight and you have to maintain visual line of sight. So there we are. As an FAA safety rep, I have 2 valid questions so far skipped. Okay. Bill? Okay.
Yeah, we weren't skipping his questions on purpose.
We're not skipping your questions on purpose. There are a lot of questions. Sometimes it takes a while for me to get to them, but I don't see anything else. We don't discriminate. You can be an FAA safety rep or whatever. We try to answer all the questions, by the way. Sometimes, because there are so many of them, we don't see all of them, but I don't know what the other question that you had, Bill, but if you put it again, I'll take a look at it. What else? I don't see any more on my list. Okay, we might stop it right there. Well, all right. A little bit of a slow ending here, but I wanted to make sure we get everything covered. I don't see any more questions in here. All right, we will be back on Monday next week with more. And then we have Friday news update. Expect, if that executive order goes through, accept a lot of information on that on Friday, and then more on our post-flight as well that we do in the paid community. But we may have some shorts as well if the information pops up on on Wednesday. But yeah, stay posted. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. You'll get notification when we put new stuff. But yep. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a good week. Don't read all the headlines. Read the actual article. Don't panic. Don't be that guy and all the above. And then we'll see you next time.